Yeah.
We met on a short called Eyeball Eddie, and it was about a kid with a glass eye. That was your first acting performance in film, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah. I grew up out here, so I did things here and there, but that was the first thing that I got to like that, and then the pilot for Freaks and Geeks happened right around the same time. We did the pilot.
You became famous pretty quickly.
And then, everyone saw Freaks and Geeks. Everyone saw Freaks and Geeks 20 years later.
It's probably the biggest cult thing that ever happened. I mean, it did more for your career probably
no
than if it
one
would have
watched
lasted.
it. You know what? In some ways, and I think in other ways, it would have been maybe detrimental. If the only thing I had done, like if 7 years later or 8 years later, the only thing that I had done was that, it would have been much harder to break out of that.
You know what's good news is that,
if that makes sense,
you weren't a dick probably on set because Judd Apatow started casting you. So you didn't really know what Judd Apatow was going to do other than Freaks and Geeks. He hadn't really done much. He
had produced a lot. I mean, but he'd actually been a part of a lot of great things.
Like what? I'm not saying he's
Ben Stiller's show. I mean, his producing resume is massive.
But I'm talking about like he blew up after Freaks and Geeks. I mean, Knocked Up, all these other movies that came out.
I think it was really Knocked Up that said it. Or 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? That was first.
40-Year-Old Virgin was version?
The 40-year-old version of 40-Year-Old Virgin, which comes out in 27 years. That movie, I think, really exploded his people's awareness of him.
Yeah. You were a nice guy on the set. He liked you, obviously. There was probably some people on set that were a little trouble, that didn't work as much, maybe?
Oh, I was trouble.
You were? You were a pain in the ass?
We were all trouble.
Do you think he didn't like, if you had to guess one person you didn't like, one person Apatow didn't like on that set? If you had to think about it. It wasn't James Franco.
What does that mean?
Well, because he put him in a lot of stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, but I don't know that. I also don't know that necessarily dictates the way people's working relationships work. Weirdly, I always find it confusing when you meet someone who, and I'm not going to get into a name game on this, but when you meet people who are difficult and their careers aren't hurting because of that. Does that make sense? I think this is a business where, and perhaps any business where you're really sought after, it just kind of depends on the individual, and people will kind of take what they can business-wise and suffer the consequences in other ways.
Wow.